Oh yeah, no, they're pretty close. So yeah, Wednesdays. Oh, sorry, Wednesdays and Thursdays. Those.
So can everyone read my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Fantastic. We can see it. That's great. If I just, it's 12 o'clock, so we should get going. And sorry, this is Rob Ward from CRA in the north of England, and it's my great pleasure to welcome all of you, and especially Bernard from Krems in the south of Austria, to present some of the work he's been doing. The first slide will give you the title. What I am going to do is to keep an eye on the chat window. Colleagues, if you've got a screen like I've got, you'll have Bernard's slides to the left, and then you'll have your microphone, your webcam, which we suggest you don't use because it will ultimately, if we're all using it, it will overload the system. The number of people with us, there are currently 13, and then just below that there's a chat. And if you have questions as we go along, if you want to just jot them down, or thoughts or ideas, anything that sparks up in your thinking, then I will keep an eye on the chat box, and we'll have some time, I think, Bernard, at the end where we'll be able to talk through some of the issues that colleagues have raised. So please make use of the chat window. We will ask you to mute your microphones while Bernard is presenting, because otherwise, particularly in modern offices, there's a huge amount of background noise. So I'll be doing that now. I'm going to hand over to Bernard, really looking forward to the next hour or so, and I will, as I say, keep an eye on the chat. So as things go along, please add your comments, thoughts, suggestions, questions, and we'll pick those up towards the end. Thank you from the north, and now to Bernard in the south. Thanks, Bernard.
Thank you very much, Rob. Hello all, I'm happy for the invitation to have this webinar. And my webinar is about game-based learning to support employability, supporting girls' career choices in the field of ICT and entrepreneurship. And it's some kind of practice project. It's funded by the Austrian. It's a society for funding research, and it's in the context of supporting females for their career choices. We're doing this project with several other partners for educational research, for enterprise counseling, and so on, to have a whole consortium who goes into the schools, puts game-based learning into the schools. Generally, the problem we start from is, particularly in Austria, we have a gender imbalance in STEM. And if you see the latest PISA results, the discrepancy between boys and girls also increased in STEM in Austria, which is an unexpected result. And on the other hand, we have a lack of STEM professionals in Austria, and a gender inequality in STEM regarding workforce and regarding salaries. And this as a whole picture speaks for inequalities regarding employability. That means 50% of the Austrian pupils want to go to like hairdresser or selling things in a shop together, and very few are really interested in professions where they have higher salaries. And it's maybe something about, because Austria has a center, and it's Vienna, but then it's a very rural area and schools are very distributed. But I think Rob says it's not only in Austria, but it's particularly a problem in Austria more than in Germany, for example, and also it's already in Germany a problem. So the goals of the project is to increase the females' familiarity with IT, job profiles, and entrepreneurship, to guide females how to identify and to develop their own preferences and competences, to present role models and initiate networking, and to use the potential of social learning and game-based learning. So, in the beginning, in the project consortium, we had a very traditional idea about giving them some input that they get better in IT and entrepreneurship, and then think about, oh, so now they are able to go into the field. But during discussion, we found out that that would be the wrong way. It's like now we want to give them some kind of encouragement that they develop and recognize the competencies. So the project itself also analyzes perceptions of factors for the career choice, identifies impacts on career choices, and provides support for career choices. We have there very, switch on my webcam. So I will try. Okay, can you see me? Oops. Okay, so now we have also my webcam. So we wanted to analyze the perception of factors for a career choice. So we put a lot of qualitative study during the last months. We wanted to identify impacts on career choices and to provide support for career choices. So the background, here I represent something from the German and Austrian kind of literature. The one is that we have a low self-concept of many female pupils regarding their STEM skills. And there was a new PISA report which came out about this year's, which just took on a spot on the self-concepts and analyzed how far there are the differences. And they're also particularly high in Austria. This is the one thing, and the other thing that often, particularly also in Austria, parents have a very negative gender stereotype about females in STEM, and this shows detrimental impacts on the motivation and performance of female pupils in STEM. These were results in Germany presented here on the slides, but we had the same in Austria, and from a further project, we also got this report in Spain, more or less. And so we were thinking about what are the influences of the particular impacts. Regarding the theory, we had some different aspects for theoretical consideration. The first was interest and motivation as factor for career choice. So people go into a career if they're interested, if they have some kind of motivation. We have the self-concept as prerequisite for career choice. There, for example, there was a study 2009 in Germany where Eason found out that females need much better grades to go, for example, to engineering than females, because otherwise they don't feel safe enough. Then we have the social cultural environment as facilitator, like the parents and so on, and at the end stereotypes as obstacles. With respect to the stereotypes, we just edited a special issue in an unfortunately German journal, but we found big impacts of stereotypes. So if we have a model how the things work, then we see it's the model of Dick and Rellis, but it gives us some kind of impression. At the end we have the career choice. I don't know if you see my mouse circling around. And up until the career choice happens, we have a lot of things in between. We have as fixed factors, for example, the aptitude, the milieu, the socializers and experience in grades, in tests, but these are not standing for them alone. but they are perceived by the students, and also the experiences are interpreted. And based on this, there exists self-concept and career values. And the interpretation of experience is very important. We have the attribution theory, and there are very different attribution patterns between females and males, which also has an effect on the career choice and also on the values. If we look what's the most important factors for students studying STEM, we made a word cloud. It was from a former project, and we had 600 female students of STEM, mathematics, computer sciences, physics, and so on. But more than 50% of the students, brothers, were already engineers. And from the qualitative study, we got interviews that we found out that one student, female student, told us, yes, my mother, and she came home and she brought some dry ice and put it on the table, and so she learned to get interested in this idea. So we see that we have a big impact of parents on pupils for decisions going to STEM fields, and this impact is rather due to socialization than to a conscious impact. So we often hear in our, there was something in the chat, one moment please. So if we ask the students, they don't tell us, yes, my father influenced me to go into STEM, but they don't do, but then they bring the stories like the mother bringing dry ice, and so they show the indirect influence. Oops, pardon me. As a conclusion, we can say females need a high self-concept and a high motivation for studying subjects with a low percentage of females, and stereotype have a detrimental impact on females in STEM subjects. And important is, if we want to support students going into STEM, we have to support rather motivation and interest than a particular skill development. And this has to get very early. And in one of the German studies we published recently, we found out the more students got support for mathematics or for science, the lower they have their self-concept. And if you support them for their study decision, this is a positive impact on the self-concept. And to the question in the chat, if the impact is similar for females and for males, then we can say, of course, males and females are subject to the impact of the parents for their career choice. But for males, they stereotypically say, okay, I'm a male, I'm going building cars or something like this. So the stereotypes for males are rather throwing them to STEM, and the stereotypes for males, for females, are rather getting them away from STEM. And it's for both challenge, because for the females, you have females gifted for STEM who don't go to STEM because they say, oh, I'm not so gifted, because they have a low self-concept and don't take the chance, even if they were very gifted for this career. And on the other hand, you have a lot of males that go to STEM because they say, I'm a male, I want to choose STEM, but they overestimate. And if we look to the people dropping their studies, there are much more males dropping their studies in STEM than females from the percentage. That means if females study STEM, they continue studying STEM and have less dropouts compared to the number than the males, where a lot of males go into STEM, but also over proportional share drops STEM studies. So, what is the consequence? If we want to successfully support career choices, we have to go beyond the design of learning. So we have to also to provide contextualization of learning experiences and interpretation guides. So how to interpret feedback to my IT work, something like this. So we have a content element, which means I can build self-esteem by working on STEM things, and a strategic element, which means how can I handle feedback and things. And therefore we decided for game-based learning. Oh, there was another chat. One moment. This, again, with dropout, I mean we have certain numbers of initial students starting a STEM course, and then we measure how many students get a degree of STEM. And if females study STEM, of course we have a much lower percentage, much lower number of females studying STEM, but of these lower number, much more females, much higher percentage of females finishes their studies with a degree than of the males, which of course you have much higher numbers of males going into STEM, but the dropout percentage is much higher for males than for females. So compared to the initial number, much less males do the degree in STEM, and they switch their study subject. So why do we do game-based learning? The digital games confront players with complex realistic situations in which they have to use their powers of problem solving, collaborating, critical thinking, and so on. That means we put a game that we don't let them program things, but also do some kind of problem-oriented learning environment. We designed learning as an active and problem-oriented process, and not regarding the facts, but also the underlying how and why and so on. So the digital game we designed was to elicit engagement and attention, and to foster the sustainability of learning. The learning objectives, like I already said in the theory part, is strengthening self-confidence and self-efficacy. We would enable the females to discover their own IT-related key competences, and also the ones for entrepreneurship, and to experience IT job profiles beyond the stereotypes. Thus, the game focused on indicating key competences, strengthening positive experiences, and giving interpretation guides how to interpret feedback on their personal STEM skills. So we had several core elements of the game, less on content, but more on how finding solutions, taking different roles, overcoming the stereotypes. And for the task, we had some kind of task like communication, creativity, presentation, problem definition, and solution finding. That means more the entrepreneurial skills. And when I studied computer sciences before the millennium, there was the one big proverb that we could say 90% of the IT project fail because the programmers miss to meet the specification and miss to communicate with the customer about what they should do. And therefore, we see that particularly the task we include is important also for the hardcore IT skills. If we see the game-based learning as self-evaluation tool, the game-based learning allowed self-evaluation of skill and competences in a non-formal setting. And that's important. We put all the game in the school, and in the school you usually get grades for something like this, and then you have always the context of the grades, which gets detrimental for motivation, and we wanted to get some kind of non-formal setting that the students are able to find their competencies. We wanted to introduce this self-evaluation of motivation for untypical careers by reflection tasks and so on, and their self-evaluation of the transversal skills. We had in the game a lot of role models, and the students were able to contact with the role models and to get an impression what are other females doing when they are working in the IT, and this allows to compare what what's their own idea and what are typical or untypical careers. Why did we do it focus on the employability issue? The one was that we wanted to provide a safe harbor for making experiences in a new or atypical field. And the second was to support development of self-confidence, and the third was to support motivation. So the open questions were, we now had some kind of e-portfolio, the students put in their project work they did and reflected in an e-portfolio style, and this we implemented in Gemma, a social enterprise network, and we also gave them some badges and praise. But even if in the course context, it's maybe a little bit of difficulty because the teacher wants something to get out to invest in these issues. And so we always, in game-based learning in school, have the issue between what is the achievement and how can I get the achievement, and on the other side, what effect has this on motivation? How much can I work on achievement without getting the game as a learning thing, which would reduce the motivation? And this was the short introduction into the project, and now I'm open for your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernard. People might want to unmute mics to ask questions. There's a couple in the chat that, Bernard, you might just want to comment on. When you were talking, one of the issues I guess you were raising was how we need to create a different kind of feel to the curriculum, where it isn't all about grades and it isn't all about competition. So do these activities fit inside the curriculum? Are they part of the normal student's day, or do they fit kind of alongside, maybe at a lunchtime or outside of normal lessons? Does that make sense as a question?
Yeah, it's planned. We start the game on Monday, and it's planned that the teachers dedicate 12 hours, 6 weeks are 2 hours inside the curriculum for the game. And they have some special subject in school, which means career orientation. So the pupils are in the 8th grade, and in the 8th grade they have to decide which further schools they want to choose. And therefore, they have the subject career orientation, where the teacher discusses with the school about in which with the pupils in which other career should I go, in which other school should I go. And therefore, they have some classes, and the game is intended to be either part of these classes for career orientation or for the computer science classes.
Okay, so the nice thing about that is you've got quite big chunks of time, 2-hour chunks of time, but it's actually sitting alongside other options, so students could choose to do the game, or they could choose to do something else in a career orientation
No,
session. Is that right?
No, they do, all the girls do the game in the career orientation session.
Okay, okay. There's a query from Donna, and we might be just getting interesting differences of language. Transversal skills, the same as transferable skills. Do you want to say a bit about what transversal skills are, and then maybe we can, particularly other audiences, can judge whether there's an equivalence there or not?
The transversal skills, can you still see the slides? It's like this communication, creativity, presentation, problem
Okay.
and solution finding. It's some kind of overarching skills students need in a different kind of subjects at schools. And this means transferable skills I would define a little bit different, like they could apply the things they learned in school also later. And so there is some kind of intersection, because all the communication and so on you can transfer to the workplace, but on the other hand, I think it's a little bit of difference, which I meant.
Okay. Donna, does that help you? I think if you want to just come in at that point, does that make sense?
Yes, that's fine. Thanks very much for that.
Okay, smashing. Bernard, would it be possible to for you to give us just an example of a scenario for a game?
Okay, yeah.
Just
I can give you a scenario.
Just to give people a flavour of how it goes. Yeah, yes, and Jan has just asked that question about, is it based around a STEM or an engineering challenge? I did ask a similar question, exactly. Jan is asking the same kind of question. Yeah.
The game is about an IT challenge, and we have all the girls in the social enterprise network, which is the state channel. And then in the first week, Rachel Lovelace comes and says, hello, I'm a manager of a computer science company of the US, and I want to get you to make an app for me. And so,
okay.
So the students were asked to build groups and make a small company, and this company should be able to design an app that they think that they would really need. And this is the frame story for the whole game. And so in the first week, they're like finding a name for the company, making a logo for the company, designing a little bit things. And then in the second week, they start thinking about what's a good app we need for our mobile phones, for our tablets, and develop some idea and presentation about what would be feasible to program. And in the third week, they do some special concept, make some kind of rapid prototype of the app, and so on. They make some kind of a short elevator pitch presentation, 2-minute video to present their app. And this is the framework story for the game. And inside this, there are some special tasks that students learn. They take different roles in their companies and produce artifacts and something like this, and all they put into the social network.
Fantastic, thanks. Does that give a bit of a flavour to colleagues who are thinking, wonder what's involved? Hopefully so.
The self-evaluation, on the one hand, the students get a feedback from Rachel Lovelace, which said, oh, you made so wonderful presentations, and so on and so on. So they get some evaluation from the team, but also they can make experiences how did I perform this in the game? And we have some kind of teacher materials. So a lot of time they have 2 hours a week for dedicating on the game. We have also some kind of mini games, some special apps for just playing. And then we have some kind of reflection ideas where the students reflect, how did I feel, how did I get ahead with my task, and so on. And these are the self-evaluation prompts we inserted in the game.
So there are some questions perhaps in the portfolio, or a facilitator asks some questions which enable the self-evaluation.
Yeah, we have some dedicated teacher materials which focuses also on the self-evaluation. What have I done? How am I happy with the things I've done? This is the one aspect. And then also during the discussion in the social enterprise network.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Good question. Is it competitive between schools, and how is the impact measured? Thanks.
At the end, of course, there is a winner. And we have some kind of mini games that offer a basis for discuss things about the IT jobs. We have some kind of computer security game, and we have some kind of physics game, and we have some another kind of computer security mini game where they offer a base for reflection. But at the end, and in these mini games, there is a high score, and the people getting the high score, it's fed back to the social enterprise network, and then we have Janice has 500 points on the computer security mini game, something like this. So there, the students can work competitively, and then at the end, there is a competition about this best app, and the best app gets some kind of prize. And so we have some competitive elements on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's more structures on collaboration than on just got more. In general, we are working. In general, we are working with the distinctive schools. That means the teachers have to find a framework where how they organize in school. We have a very final event in half year after the game ended, and at first we thought about getting all pupils together to a final evaluate for getting the prizes and so on. But we found out that here in Lower Austria it's a little bit difficult because it's it's sometimes a very sparse land, and pupils have to come from far away, and so it was an issue of transportation. We measuring impact on the girls, and we had some kind of self-evaluation, which kind of skills they learned, like did they improve their presentation and communication skills, but we also have skills about motivation, skills about self-concept, and there we measure how far they advanced in self-concept and motivation.
Okay.
And I'm just browsing through the questions now. I'm at
yes.
The task has some kind of soft skills like the presentation and the communication part, yes. But the idea of the game is to motivate the girls that they are capable of designing an app and so on. And one of the traditional stereotypes of being a programmer is like sitting the whole day in front of the computer and putting code into the computer, more or less. And that's so far a stereotype because there's so much more to do if you're studying computer sciences, for example, and not just sitting there and programming. And so we wanted to put a focus on the design process of software, on what do I need for making convincing software. There are some things included, the use of tools, finding procedures, but the idea is to go one step back. Do not say, we had a long discussion about this. In the initial thing, we wanted to say, okay, now you get spreadsheet calculation or something like this, programming something like this, and we found no, because there we manifest the stereotype, I have to sit there in front of the computer and put code inside. And so we focused on this overarching tasks.
So the focus, in a sense, is very much around motivation and engagement of students and helping them to rethink what their stereotype of what the job is or might be.
Therefore, we made about 15 videos with role models, all females in STEM, who told us what is my role as a STEM person. And we had one person who has some game development company, and another company that works in IT security for financial institutes, and another one who is teacher for IT, so that we can show them a broad range of IT professions the students can do with IT, and not just provide the image of a person making code, more or less. Yeah, to Ian's question, I hope I didn't skip. As the game has very many live parts, it's in this kind of style with getting a winner at the end a little bit difficult to do it without support. But we have 4 mini games, and these 4 mini games bring in topics important for learning and working with computer sciences, and we have elaborate teacher materials and we have the videos of the role models who are, of course, online. And so a teacher who is interested in doing the game can do the game itself with the class without collaboration with the other groups and without support.
So can people access the resources you have developed then, Bernard? Is there a way of doing that?
Yeah, we have an online teacher material which is available, and we have the tasks, and we have the teacher models, and based on that you can implement the game in the classroom.
Fantastic. So is there a website we ought to point people to? Is that perhaps?
We have the website in German. Oops, pardon me. Can you still see the presentation?
No, it's just gone off. It's gone to a blank screen.
Okay, now, okay. Now, did it come back?
Not for me.
Now?
No, it says it's waiting to view. Aha! We're back with you.
Okay, won't click too much. So going to the end. We have, unfortunately, it's all in German.
Okay.
But the www.mut.at, that's the website of the project.
Okay, people should have that on their screens now. Thanks very much. Any final questions before we let Bernard have some lunch? And if he hasn't done that already, okay. Really good question from Donna, which is about, did it change perceptions? Which it's a lot about perceptions, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the big challenge, and we start again on Monday. And then we have the accompaniment research and find out what's going on. So at the moment, I'm sorry, I'm not able to bring the results. I think in end of the year, we have the results so far analyzed that we can say, yes, it worked.
Okay, or no it didn't, but we learned a lot.
Of course.
Okay, so Donna, we might be coming back to that in after Christmas, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Anything else people just want to check before we call a halt? Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. Aha. Okay. Code challenge. Okay. Some ideas and some others.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good. Okay, so there's maybe something to look at in English as well as some resources in German. Okay, thanks very much, Jen. That's great. Okay, thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you particularly, Bernard.
Thank you a lot for the invitation.
No, that's very good. I have to say your office looks much tidier. I haven't put my webcam on because your office would put mine to shame. You're
Don't worry,
well organized.
It's the right angle to show you don't see the rest of the office.
Okay, you're just showing us one view. Okay. Yeah. Thank you ever so much, colleagues, for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernard.